All right, everyone. It's a little after 5, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. First off, welcome to the last Monday launch of the semester.
Woo.
Super exciting, we made it. It's networking on LinkedIn. This is our 10th launch, and it's actually a follow-up to one of our previous launches, LinkedIn Basics, on where we covered, how to set up a profile, what sections you might want to include, and what you want to put in each section. So if you missed that one, or you think you might want a refresher, we actually posted those videos online on our website. So definitely recommend you go check that out. But today we're going to be talking about part 2, networking on LinkedIn. So I'm Brian Gentry. I'm a senior majoring in chemical and biomedical engineering. This is my 4th semester as a career ambassador, and this is also, fortunately, my very last launch, so it's kind of bittersweet.
Well, I'm Darian Boyd. I'm a junior in textile technology. This is also my 4th semester as a career ambassador, and I'm sad to see Brian. This is his last launch.
My name is Christy Norton. I'm a junior in electrical and computer engineering. This is also my 4th semester as a CA. We all started together. And today we'll be talking about networking on LinkedIn. You actually will not be needing your laptops. We're going to be doing quite a bit of interactive activities where you work with people at your tables. So if you could please put your devices away so that we'll be able to engage with one another.
All right, so you all should have received a little tiny piece of paper with an object or a place on it, right, when you came in? So we're going to do this fun little activity where amongst yourselves at your table, you're going to compare your objects or your places, whatever you have on your piece of paper, and try to find a meaningful connection between one another. And after you find that after you establish that meaningful connection, then form a team name, so you have a team throughout the rest of the presentation. So I guess to demo it a little bit, let's say I had a piece of paper and it was a paperclip.
Mine would be orange juice.
Mine would be a lamp.
A lamp and a paperclip. Those are both things you can have at a desk. Maybe if you're doing work, you need the orange juice for some energy. So that's how we would find connections. So once again, if you all have your little piece of paper, talk amongst with each of the individuals at your table and find something that you can use to connect with them. This is like directly relating to out in industry. If you were networking with people, you might not see the connection right up front, why you all should be connected or why you're similar to that person, but you dig a little bit deeper and you can find that connection. So talk amongst each other and then come up with a team name at your table.
Ours would be something like early morning office.
That'd work out.
And then I have peanut butter and strawberry sandwich.
We had a lot of food ones.
We had all ones.
Yeah.
It's all stuff you can find at the beach.
A shoe.
Or near a beach. Beach sounds good, right? I don't know. Maybe the beach sometimes.
What'd y'all have?
We had 3 ocean.
Oh, wow.
Nice. We do snacks at the beach.
I love it. We're getting to see yours. You did have a lot of green issues.
So you guys like food in the evening?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could wear them. But you should also
Yeah.
Word? Bananas. Beignets.
No, like, no, like an overarching, like,
Brunch?
snack.
Breakfast?
Yeah, we have free food.
I try to come up with a team name.
I'm just trying to do like snacks at the sea.
Oh, that's cute.
Alliteration. That's good.
I know. Good creative.
Seafood.
Seafood, yeah, you're right. Smart.
another healthy food. Alright, so we have all health foods.
They had very different topics.
Yeah.
What are we giving like a sport?
They have like 3 foods, like loafers, fish and line.
That sounds like a fishing trip,
Fishing, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
like picnic and fishing, depending on what the food was.
Any other
banana was one of the
I'm so
foods.
hungry
So.
now.
You could take a banana on a picnic?
Um,
Do you not take bananas on your picnic?
I ate a banana.
I like
So what would your team do?
6 p.m. this time's on yours.
What did I say? What's the name?
I know it's a Monday. It's tough to think of.
Oh yeah.
It's in the middle of it.
Yeah, you have some like sporting gear.
Leave your bags in the
Ooh,
car.
that's
Really
tough.
fun birthday.
I won't pretend. Say I won't
So we got fish and lamb. What else we got?
report the name.
Those aren't like common sports that you don't think of.
Yeah, I don't wanna know.
What?
Y'all could be the MVP, the most valuable professional. Or do y'all have your team name?
Yeah, theirs is cool too.
What is it? What's your team name?
Snacks by the sea.
Snacks by the Sea.
good.
That's awesome. What items do y'all have?
By the sea.
3 sea-related things in one sandwich.
That's awesome.
It's nice when you're really connected. Makes networking very easy.
So as y'all can see from this activity, sometimes, I know this table at the front, they had a few sports items, a loafer, which is kind of like a business type shoe, and 3 healthy snacks. So those things can be kind of difficult to relate, but they ended up coming up with a sports conference because they have that loafer, so you gotta be a little bit more professional. So sometimes it might not be as obvious when you're networking with people what you might have in common. Maybe it's not that you're going into the same profession or interested in the same company. Maybe you're both participants in Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts growing up, and that's how you connect. So today, we're hoping that you all will walk away learning how to manage connections and craft a personalized connection request on LinkedIn. Understand how to use recommendations, endorsements, and job tools on LinkedIn, and identifying ways to develop a brand and promote your LinkedIn profile.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is making connections, specifically how you should go about handling, sending, and accepting connection requests. So to begin, I'd like to ask a few questions, a quick poll of the room, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a hypothetical person who sends you a connection request on LinkedIn. And what I want you to do is that if you would accept that request, I just want you to raise your hand. If you wouldn't, just don't raise your hand. Or maybe smack the table in disgust. So for example, what if I were to say Bill Gates were to send you a connection request? How many of you would accept that request? All right, I saw people. There's no Apple haters in this room. Really?
If it's real. Is it a real person? Is it really him?
You can normally tell. I feel like he has a verified account or something.
Yeah.
All right, so first question. What if a classmate that you worked closely with, maybe it's someone that you sit next to in class, maybe it's someone that you work on a homework group with, worked on a project with, or even just studied for a test with, what if they were to send you a connection request? How many of you would accept?
How reliable?
That's
That's
a
a
good
great
question.
follow-up.
Yeah, it's open-ended. It's up to you. This guy's very stingy with his acceptances.
Strong filters.
Okay, no, I like it. So those of you who did raise your hand, what are some reasons that you would accept that request?
I assume I was working with them because they were doing like they were being reliable.
Yeah, yeah,
So connect them.
yeah. No, that's a good point. Anyone else? Yeah.
They can give you recommendations.
Yeah, if you work pretty closely with them, those are good people to get recommendations from. You were asking if they were reliable. Maybe, yeah, if you had a bad experience with that particular person, maybe you wouldn't want to add them to your network just yet. That's all a good point. But your colleagues now will generally be your peers in the future. So just something to consider when you're accepting requests. Let's ask another one. What if you get a request from someone who's in your major, but you haven't really associated with them much, you haven't talked to them much? Maybe they're a class below you, maybe they're a class above you, maybe they're a recent alumni. Would you accept that request? How many? Why do you think you would accept that request?
Well, you have something in common with people who went to NC State and have the same major.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we have the same major, it's possible that one of
Yeah. Maybe they know someone that you would like to get to know. That's a good point. All right, so what if you get a request from someone who just goes to NC State? You don't know them at all, they're not in your major, they just are an NC State student. Would you accept that request? We got a few, less, but we have a few. Why would you accept that request? Why not?
We're all at the same school, like, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe in the future you do work with them closely. It's possible. What if, this is the last one, there's someone outside of NC State who you don't know at all, but they have 500 plus connections, and they send you a request? Would you accept that request? All right, so we got 2. Why would you accept that request?
Well, now I'm thinking, why not?
Why not? That's a valid point. So there really are 2 different philosophies when it comes to accepting requests on LinkedIn. You've got the quantity mindset and you've got the quality mindset. So quantity is if you wanted to just send and accept as many requests as possible so you get over 500 plus connections. If you're of this mindset, good news is LinkedIn has a max of 30,000 first connections that you can add. So you could just keep going if you wanted to, theoretically. If you're of the quality mindset, you want to make meaningful connections. So only people that you really know, or you'd like to get to know, or maybe someone in the industry or field that you really want to connect with. So there are pros and cons to each. The quantity mindset, obvious pros, you get a larger network, right? A larger network means more access to other people that you might want to get to know. So with LinkedIn, you have your first, second, and third connections. And if Christy could go to her LinkedIn page right now, we can give you a little bit of an example of that. So if Christy were to search Brian on the search bar, you can immediately see that the first connection is me. That means that I'm connected directly to her. We are first connections. If you look at Brian Peters' PhD, he's a second connection. That means Christy herself is not connected to him, but he is connected to someone that she's connected to. So he's connected to one of her first connections, 2 degrees away. If you click on see all results for Brian, eventually she's going to see the number 3rd. And that means that that particular person is connected to one of her second connections. So again, she's not connected to it, and even her first connections are not connected to that person. But that person is still in her network because they're 3 degrees away. So generally you can connect or send requests to your second and third connections. Generally. There's a couple exceptions. Maybe you already sent them a request and they haven't accepted it, and so you won't be able to send them another until they acknowledge that one. But if the person is outside of your network, you might not be able to send a connection or request to them. So the benefit of having the larger network, of the quantity mindset, is that you have access to more people. One of my professors is connected to thousands of people in the industry that all her students generally filter into. And that's really good for her students because they now have access to all those people in their own networks because they're connected to that professor. So that's one benefit of the quantity mindset. If you prefer quality, though, you have more meaningful connections. So with quantity, your connections, not all of them are going to be meaningful. Not all of them are going to really be connections. You're really just using them. It's a one-way relationship. The only reason you have them there is so your network is larger. With the quality mindset, you have more meaningful connections, and then that way it becomes more of a 2-way relationship. You can keep up these contacts and actually connect with them, and maybe you can help them out, introduce them to someone that you know that they'd like to get to know, and vice versa. So those are the benefits and the disadvantages to each. So now let's move on to how you can see who's been looking at your profile. So if Christy goes to her profile, on each of your own profiles, you have your personal dashboard that's only visible to you. So if we start from the left on who's viewed your profile, these are all the people that have looked at your profile within a certain time period. So Christy is set on private mode. So you can set yourself on private mode, meaning when you search someone, they don't see that you're looking at their profile. All they see is that an anonymous LinkedIn user has viewed their profile. You can also set yourself to be visible. It's just your choice. But if you do hide your visibility on LinkedIn, that means you can't in turn see who is looking at your profile.
I do want to cut in right there.
Yeah.
Who in here actually has a LinkedIn profile? Everyone, cool. Is it all the way up to date and you have been like maintaining it and everything? Cool. I know for me, myself, when I first made a LinkedIn profile, my stuff was not very presentable to the public, in my opinion. So I did make myself invisible. Yeah, that's the word. Invisible to other people who may be seeing my profile, just because I wanted to like have a template to go off of. So I would search like my supervisors, like Alex or Sarah, whose profiles were up to date and had their information nicely spaced out, just so I could see like how I could form my profile before I made that available to the public. So definitely keep that in mind as you're editing your LinkedIn profile.
That is a really good point. One of my friends was a recent LinkedIn user last semester, so he was trying to get tips on how to improve his own profile. So for a period of 3 weeks after I had accepted his request, every couple of days I would see that this particular person had viewed my profile. And while that's fine because I know him pretty well, there's someone else that might be a little off-putting, don't you think? A little creepy. So I had to tell him, hey, it's okay if you want to keep stalking me on LinkedIn. I really am flattered by it. But to someone else, especially a recruiter, this might be a little bit of a red flag. So what I like to do is generally when I'm viewing someone's profile for the first time and I'm visible, I make sure that I spend a lot of time on their profile, maybe make a couple notes about their experiences and activities and interests so that I don't have to look at their profile week after week after week. Maybe I could just look at it once a semester, see what they've been up to. That is a good point. So if we go back to the dashboard on Christy's profile, the next thing that you'll see is post views. So if she clicks on that, it'll take her to her activity section. In this activity section, she can see the articles that she's shared or written, the posts that she has written, or the posts that she's liked. So if you just scroll down, you can see all the ones that she shared, that she's liked. This is generally pretty good to see, all right, if she has a particular post, how many people have viewed it, how many people have liked it. If we go back to the dashboard, the next thing that you'll see is the weekly search appearances. These will tell you 3 things. The first thing is the number of times your profile has appeared in search results for that week. The second thing is what your searchers, who they work for. And the third thing is what your searchers do. So generally, these statistics are maybe not so reliable, because if someone searches NC State Chemical Engineering, I'm immediately appearing in that search result. But it is helpful to see who your profile is reaching. So maybe if you look at this, you can tell, all right, I don't really want my profile to reach these people, I want to reach these people. What steps do I need to take to make sure that I'm reaching the right audience? Another thing you can see on the dashboard is, your status, your profile status. If Christy goes back, you can see that she is an all-star in that top right corner. That means that her profile is 40 times more likely to give her opportunities through LinkedIn. And there's only 7 things that you really need for an all-star status. One is the industry and location you want to go. The other is a profile picture. That's incredibly important. There's education. You need a current, your current role and a detailed description of that role. 2 other positions in your LinkedIn. You need over 50 connections. And the last one is a minimum of 3 skills. So it's a lot easier to get than you might realize, and that just puts you ahead of other people on LinkedIn. So that's just a little bit about how you can see who's viewing your profile. Christy?
So another part of building your network on LinkedIn, thinking of that quality versus quantity mindset, I personally tend to go with a quality mindset. I like to stay connected with people that are meaningful connections and I feel comfortable reaching out to, even if I've only met them one time. And how I stay connected with those people is by sending personalized connection requests. So how you'll send a personalized connection request is, instead of doing this on your phone, you'll have to get on your laptop and go to their profile. So I'm going to connect with Else, who I'm currently working with this semester. And then once you're on their profile, you hit this connect button. If you're doing this in the app on your phone or on the screen where there's a bunch of squares of people's faces that'll pop up after I send a connection to Else, it'll just send the automatic generic LinkedIn request. And for me, if I haven't met the person before, I'll tend to not accept that unless we have significant things in common or working towards similar career goals. So here you'd click add a note. And a personalized connection request, you want to mention how you know the person and why you'd like to be connected with them. So I'd say, hi, Else. It has been a joy working with you on Cupped, a startup company that we're working at this semester. I would love to stay connected with you in your professional endeavors. Best regards, Christy. So it's as simple as that. There's a very short character limit, 240 characters, so you can't go on and on. It's typically about 2 or 3 sentences. A greeting and then sign off. So you'll always want to put just like a respectful email, best regards, respectfully, sincerely, whatever works for you. And then I'll send her an invitation. And then if we go to messaging, after someone accepts your request, you can see the invitation that you sent them originally. Until then, it won't pop up. So as you can see here, I don't see that message that I just sent to Else, but I connected to one of my old coworkers, Eric, the other day. Sent him a similar message. We've known each other since we were in middle school, so it was a little less formal, but still had my professional hat on while I was networking on LinkedIn. Does everyone understand how to format a professional connection request? All right. Any other tips, Darian and Brian?
I think what should be noted about what Christy said in her personal request, she actually had a goal in mind when she messaged that person. So she does care about quality when she comes into play, when connections come into play. And so she looked at Eric, for instance, and said, I would like to join your network to stay in touch with your professional endeavors. So she wants to stay in touch with him going forward, to see what he is up to in his professional life, and see how he kind of adapts to his work environment. And so that's a good connection to have leading out into the future. I'm so sorry.
What questions do you all have so far? All right, if there are no more questions, then we are going to put this into practice.
All right, so with the personal request extravaganza, we all want you all to just take a minute to think about who you would actually want to connect with moving forward. I know Christy had someone that she met like back in middle school and grew up with pretty much, but that doesn't have to be necessarily be the case. You connect with your career counselors, you connect with a student that you've noticed thus far being a college student, seeing where they are right now and how they got to that point. You could ask them, what kind of opportunities they took advantage of leading up to this point. And you could also possibly connect with a recruiter that you meet at the career fair. It was nice to meet you at the career fair. What can I do to be a better applicant moving forward in my job search? That's something that you could send to a possible recruiter or a company representative. So just take a minute to think about someone that you would actually want to connect with via LinkedIn, and we'll reconvene in a few.
You don't know it yet, but you won't come back. Now you don't know it.
Yeah, just use those. There's markers here. We can give you blue color markers if you want. Yellow's kind of like this. So just think of someone, maybe think of a few phrases.
Previous employer?
Remember that when you're writing each request, you have to have 3 pictures. This thing's here.
Okay, cool. So like, how would you start that?
Got anyone in mind, Drew? Really?
I mean, I usually think.
Just wanted
Yeah.
to reach out, connect with you.
That's good.
And,
You were grad school. Is there any particular grad school that you would be interested in at this point? Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, like, what general program you might be interested in, what general college? Still looking? No, it's okay.
You're starting your journey
Yeah.
in the professional world. You want to have as much access as possible to people in the industry. So you think that you want to have access to those people.
So maybe like thinking of a professor or something that would help out with grad school or something. Someone you can ask for a recommendation for class.
I'm in the
So if there's someone that you think of that's accepted, right now,
Yeah, something like that for something. Really, really. Yeah. Thank you for coming, man.
Doctor
Feels like you have
say what they do about it, or you just
It typically does. Like if people have titles.
If they have a PhD, they'll put the PhD more. Or you can see from their educational background. In general, if I'm addressing a young man, I would use Mr. unless I see otherwise that they're PhD. With a woman, I usually do
Are you considering going to
Yeah.
extension?
And if someone has a professional title, they'll typically be in the title of their so like Westy is a certified counselor in a few different areas. So that's
So
all.
you're just thinking this connection is mostly
I don't
just
know
keeping
what
up with
those
their
things
individual.
stand for.
So, yeah.
But yeah, you can also look into their job title or their education.
You could also, if you're comfortable, you can address them by their first name. That's completely acceptable because you are presenting yourself as a professional.
Control.
People like to hear their first name.
All right, y'all, so just to bring it back, we want to go around. You can continue writing if you want to finish up your, if you're writing a practice connection request. But we want to go around and hear who everyone wants to connect with and why. So if you could just share the person and why you would like to connect with them. We can start right here.
Sure. Mine was a person that I shadowed for research last semester. And after going through that experience, I was certain that I wanted to feel at a later point once I took this class with a degree. And so, can you repeat what I said?
Oh no, that was a perfect answer. Short and sweet. So who it is and why? Would you like to go?
Okay, so mine is a girl that I work with. We're both pharmacy technicians, and she's going to be going to pharmacy school soon. So I'd like to connect with her to keep up her journey as we practice in that.
That's great. Rick?
mine is my boss for an internship this coming summer, and so I just said that I wanted to keep updated on his like LinkedIn stuff, I guess. And
All right.
Mine's my advisor because we have a degree in my major, so we went through all the stuff that I'm going to do
And a lot of connections in the same field.
Mine is a person that works with a company that I want to work for after graduating.
Definitely. So making connections at a company that you dream of working at one day?
Mine is an upperclassman that's a TA who works classes in my major. So I'd like to stay connected with her because she was one of the past couple years.
That's a great idea. Staying connected with people who have already been where you're going. At the back table?
Mine was a previous employer. I worked at the YMCA for like 3 years in high school, and so my boss and I got really close.
My name is Shelley Jarman, and she's the Director of Development at the Autism Society in North Carolina, and I interned there last semester in her department, so I would like to just keep in touch with her.
Good idea.
I just had like current or like previous like teachers I had in case I wanted to look for like a letter of recommendation, like if I went ended up going to grad school, still not sure about that, but it's always good to have, I guess, faculty connections just in case. So.
Yeah, and you could get a LinkedIn recommendation. We'll talk about that shortly.
Mine was my academic advisor, who also has many connections with people, so just gonna connect with her, try to connect with her connections.
Definitely. Those are all great examples of people you could connect with. So these are just some templates of ways that you can write a LinkedIn connection request. So the first one says, hello, person I want to connect with. We recently met at blank, and I enjoyed what you did when you met this person face to face. I was hoping that I could join your LinkedIn network and what you want to gain from this relationship or what you'll bring to it. Thanks, your name. And then the second one is, hello, person you want to connect with. I'm a student at NC State. What are you looking to bring, looking for? And I saw why you're interested in this person. If possible, I was hoping that I could connect, that I could ask you some questions and arrange a meeting with you sometime soon. Thanks, your name. So it's as simple as that.
Cool. So we've talked a little bit about making connections and personalized requests. Are there any questions so far that we might be able to answer that we haven't covered yet? Okay. So let's talk about recommendations and endorsements. So an endorsement is a way that a first connection can endorse you for a skill that you've listed on your profile. They can only endorse you for skills that you've listed on your profile. And you can list a maximum of 50 skills. And you can sort them or even hide the ones that you don't really want visible on your profile. Generally, I like to keep it around 10, so it's a manageable number, and people don't get lost in all the skills that I've listed. For an endorsement, you can't request it, but it really looks good, and you will pop up in more search results when someone who is highly skilled at that particular competency endorses you for that skill. So definitely, if you see anyone at work or that you work closely with in a class or a group or an organization, maybe just say, hey, can you endorse me for this particular skill? That's a perfectly acceptable way of asking for an endorsement. A recommendation is a written statement endorsing you for a particular good work that you've done. So it can be a paragraph, it can be a few sentences. You can actually request a recommendation via LinkedIn, and you have the option of accepting a recommendation, or you can send it back to the requester if you're not really happy about it or you want an update for them to revise it, or you can even hide a recommendation. So there's a lot of things you can do with a recommendation, but generally we like to say that you want to make sure you're asking for a recommendation from someone who you know pretty well or who knows you pretty well and how you are as a professional. So maybe a supervisor that you work really close with and you guys get along very well, or maybe a classmate who you've been on a number of projects with, or maybe the member of an executive board of a club that you've been a part of and you've shown exemplary work on that. So there's ways you can go about, and this does look pretty good when someone's viewing your profile, if they can get a better understanding of who you are as a professional.
Your parents may try to write you one.
Yeah, that's not the best one.
You can decline it. Though.
Yes, you can decline it, you can hide it. Don't want your parents endorsing you. That's not generally a good look for your professional image. But the best way to receive an endorsement or a recommendation is to first give someone an endorsement or recommendation. So for every presentation that I have with career ambassadors, I generally like to give them an endorsement on 3 of their skills that they've listed on their profile, just so that maybe I can get the endorsements in return.
All right, so job tools. First, you can go to LinkedIn. We can just walk right through it. That'll be a little easier. All right, so the 3 main job tools that I utilize on LinkedIn myself are the ability to follow companies that